we're going to cover the reading-writing connection called critical reading that your podcast homework covered in this presentation. So Mr. Fraley, the podcaster, made a particular statement that I wanted to spend a moment covering. He said, everything has been written by someone, for someone, about something, to achieve some purpose using certain words. Now, this particular statement is, in a nutshell, the writer-audience connection. This is a statement encompasses everything that happens, everything that drives the creative process, if you will. So if you remember from English 111, when you were learning about the visual rhetorical analysis essay, you learned that audience was the driving factor in choices that were made by the advertiser. That's true of everything we write. So as a reader, you are that audience. So as a critical reader, you want to ask yourself, why did this particular author make these choices? What should I think about these choices? And really start to think about digging deep into that as you go through your reading selections. Early on, those reading selections are going to be primarily short stories. But as we move forward in the first half of the semester, you're going to start to add critical literary criticism, so scholarly articles about your particular short story that you choose. Then, as we move forward into the second half of the semester, you're going to be asked to make connections about the articles for your literature review that revolve around your science topic. So this statement, everything has been written by someone, for someone, about something, to achieve some purpose using certain words, covers all writing-reading connection. All right. So if we define critical reading, and it's important to define the terms that we use, and I want to make sure that everybody is kind of on the same page. And let me start, before we go further, you just want to ignore this. This is for this code. When I do this presentation with a seated class, they're able to make comments about various slides, but we're doing this online and asynchronous, so for y'all, you don't have to worry about doing this. We're just going to go through this just like it was a PowerPoint. All right, so if we define critical reading, we say critical reading means that a reader applies certain processes. In other words, it's methodical, models, questions. You're going to ask questions as you read, and theories. In other words, what do you know that might clarify the particular passage that you're reading, that will result in enhanced clarity and comprehension. The goal of critical reading is to gain a deeper understanding, to have a conversation, if you will, with the text, with the particular passage that you're reading. There is more involved, both in effort and understanding, in a critical reading than a mere skimming of the text. We all do skimming. That's what we do when we sit online most of the time, or we kind of flip through blog posts, things like that. But for your college experience, you really want to step your game up a little bit and think, how can I engage with the text in front of me? That's what this is all about. So Mr. Fraley delineates some characteristics of unreflective readers, which we're all unreflective readers at some point in our lives. This is a journey. This is a goal that we've got. So he says that unreflective readers believe that the meaning is found just in the words on the page, and that there is a simple single interpretation of a text. Sometimes there is, but many times there is not, and that we should accept unconditionally what we read. And so if we say, well, this is what unreflective readers believe, what do reflective readers do? So, obviously, reflective readers are not like unreflective readers. They are skeptical about what they read. This doesn't mean that you have to dislike or disagree. You just have to ask yourself, does that sound right? Should I believe that? Is that true? They actively read the material. They draw passages or connections between those passages and their own personal experiences. This is really important. So the writing that you're going to be reading, the various short stories, they don't change. They're set in stone. Anything you read that's been put on a piece of paper, published somewhere, it's pretty much set in stone. But the reader brings their own set of experiences, their personal experiences, which can lead to different interpretations. Everybody comes from a different place. That set of experiences that the reader brings to the text when they're reading it opens up different worlds for different readers. Critical readers need to be open to new ideas, and they want to have discussions with each other. So, reading involves more than a simple transfer of information from words on a page to the minds of the reader. In other words, you are going to be an active participant when you're doing your reading. So, the reading-writing relationship. Why are we talking all about this? This is a writing class. Critical readers respond to a text in writing by questioning and evaluating both the author's words and their reaction to those words. So, you've got a series of reading responses to do that start next week. Everybody's going to be reading the same exact short stories. You will all have different reading responses. Every person will have something slightly different. That is your reaction to those words. And I'm going to have you all interact both on discussion board. I'm going to have you do occasional videos. We're going to start with one of those this week. We're going to do a little practice video response. Sometimes we might do something on a platform called Padlet so that you all have a chance to read other people's responses and react to them. So critical readers also draw on their knowledge from other members of their academic community to respond. So I like to look at this Boolean diagram of the text here, the reader here, and where they intersect is that interpretation. So remember, this text, let's just say it's a poem. This poem doesn't change. The actual words on the page remain the same. But each reader brings their own set of experiences, and where those overlap is where the interpretation happens. So student 1, student 2, student 3, we're going to have a bunch of different interpretations of that particular text. And that ends up with a conversation. We end up with a conversation or discourse on a topic between members of an academic community. In this case, our academic community is English 112. And we go back to rhetoric. This goes back to the idea of rhetoric. Writers have a set of goals in mind when they try to write. They use language in a certain way. Those critical readers need to be aware and skeptical and think about, what is this author trying to do, and what is it, how do I react to it, and why do I react that way to it? So as we move forward in English 112, we're going to have this they say, I say approach. This is when we start to get to our literary analysis paper. We're going to learn first how to read and interpret our own feelings and thoughts on various texts, in this case, short stories. Then when we go to write our essay towards March or February timeframe, we're going to read what other people wrote about those short stories, and we're going to learn how to react to them and incorporate that in our own writing. So, academic writing is a conversation between our ideas and others' ideas. It's not just saying, well, these are my feelings. We want to ask ourselves, what do other people say? And we need to consider those ideas. Academic writing is persuasive and argumentative in nature. That doesn't mean you have to, fight or dislike something. It just means that you want to consider, you're trying to persuade other people, but you're aware other people are trying to persuade you. Academic writing is an appropriate means of response to other members in our academic community. And again, that's our English 112 class. All right, so if we go back to our getting started materials, you'll have access to this Menti right here, and you can go through it and think about it on your own. This particular Menti presentation covered the Write Like You Mean podcast episodes 1 and 2.